All right, let's do it live on a Tuesday edition of Cleveland Browns Daily. I am merely Beau. He is the great Z. We've had a surgery on the finger. What has happened? We're all on pins and needles,
Well,
wanting to know what your digit. What is
the latest?
Where are we with your digit?
We're on the road to recovery, baby, and we're on the road, and it feels good. Every day, a day closer to restoring my finger to its past glory, or as close as it will ever get to its past glory, I should say.
Oh,
and
is
so,
there news on that front?
So today was the day that I was going to see the doctors, and get it examined. And yesterday at about 5 o'clock, because I had gotten in and I got put on the list at the ortho clinic. And all of a sudden I get a call from one of our team doctors here with the Browns, the great Dr. Cup, and he calls me and he goes, "What the heck did you do?" And I was like, "What's up, Dr. Cup?" I'm like, what do you mean, what did I do? And he says, "What did you do?"
What did I do?
"Oh, what did I do?" I said, because I guess they saw my name on the list and somebody said, "Hey, Zegura's on this list. Like, find out what the heck's going on with him." So I said, chop my finger off, chop and paste. He goes, "You idiot." And he proceeded to make fun of me for a little bit. And so he said, "How is it?" I said, "Not great." So I sent him the picture. And in a great moment of doctor-patient, dialogue, I go, "Yeah, like I feel pretty good about it. Everything I've read said it's going to grow back. Like it's going to be, it'll be fine. It sucks, but it's going to be fine." He's like, "It's not growing back, dude. Like, I don't know where you heard that, but like."
That's what I thought.
He goes, "Fingers don't grow back." And so now.
That's what I thought. Remember, I said this to you yesterday. Like, I went to state school, but I'm like, I don't think we're like iguanas where digits just grow back if they're cut off.
So he's like, so now my jaw hits the floor and I'm starting to panic. My heart's racing. And he's like, "I'm just kidding." He's like, "I don't know. Let me call the hand guy." So he calls the hand specialist who relays back to him. In fact, yes, it will grow back. There'll be some deformities, but only you would know. Like nobody would ever know if they just looked at your finger. But he said I was lucky that it was so clean of a cleave, and that it'll come back. He said the nail might take a little bit longer to get back to normal, but everything's fine. I was told that just got to dress it in Neosporin or Vaseline and keep it wrapped, and then I'm good to go. But I have right now much smaller bandage here today, which is nice.
Yep.
And he said I could work out. It's all pain tolerance at this point. But I'll tell you, looking at it today when I changed everything out, looks much better. You can already see progress is happening.
Wow. What a job.
Supposedly the fingertip, because it contains so many nerves, and we know as humans, of our senses, touch is one of them, that your fingertip skin is actually some of the most resilient and regenerative on your body.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
Well, now we know.
Listen,
Listen,
for the quality of the night and the bolognese, I'd do it again. Prefer not to, though.
Prefer not to, no.
Strong.
You had an interesting night. Of course, I did not see this, but apparently you were on the television as well.
Yeah.
Last night on Raw, that your face got on the television as well.
It did.
I have it on the DVR, but I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, I'm sure that you're waiting with bated breath to get there. But
yeah.
So yesterday we have my good friend, our good friend, the city's good friend, the Browns' good friend, the Miz on.
Yeah.
And we had a great time talking about how much he loves coming back to Cleveland, the goosebumps he gets when he flies through, it comes down through the clouds and sees, his homeland and all of that. Yeah. And he was, couldn't have been happier. And so he goes to Raw. And, I had gotten very lucky. We got to have very nice seats for me and the kids. We're actually sitting at this time right next to the Miz's father, George Mizan.
Sure.
And all the boys are around, Scotty and Bowens and Justin and Marcus and everybody, Tony, the whole group. Everybody's all around. So he comes out and he's looking resplendent in a maroon suit, looks great, and is talking about just how great it is to be home for 5 minutes. Crowd eating it up.
Uh-oh.
How great it is, how much you guys get me, and everywhere else I'm booed, but not here. You love me here, you appreciate my hard work and all of this. And then in the middle of this, and Logan Paul comes out, and he's from Cleveland. He's shouting out his high school and his boys and how much he loves Cleveland. It made him the man he is today. And Miz is like, well, yeah, Cleveland played a role in it, but you did this, right? You made yourself a YouTube star. You made yourself, a CEO of all these things. And he's like, just like I did. He goes, if I had stayed in Cleveland and just followed in my father's footsteps and did what Cleveland was supposed to, I'd be flipping Roman burgers at Mr. Hero, like all these losers out here. And at this point,
boy,
starts in right on his pops, on his dad, who's George beside himself with pain. We had to give him a hug. He almost collapsed under the weight of the pain. And then, then he proceeds to say, like, come on, you guys know this is all true. Like, everybody from Cleveland who is any good at anything leaves Cleveland to go be successful. Like, that's just what you do. He's like, come on. And he goes through, he goes, LeBron, heck, he loved leaving so much the first day. He left twice. Goes through all these people. Lawler comes out, who will be our guest at 1:30. The King comes out wearing a old school Browns jersey, a number 95, but an old school Russell Athletic. That's how old school it was.
Was that a Cameron Wembley?
It said Lawler on the back, but it could have been. That's a great call by you. It would have been. It feels right. We'll ask him that today. And he comes out and he's like, come on, Cleveland's the best. So great to be home and yada, yada, yada. And then he says at one point, he says, how great would it be to have a Super Bowl here in Cleveland?
Yeah, sure.
And the Miz gets incredulous. Super Bowl in Cleveland? Like, are you nuts? He's like, the only way you win a Super Bowl is you leave Cleveland. They're never winning a Super Bowl in Cleveland. So then he goes, take the Browns.
It's a full heel.
He says the Browns leave. They go to Baltimore. What do? They win the Super Bowl. And then he hits this one, which was way below the belt.
Is this when your face was shown?
Yes.
Is it this time?
Yes. Then he goes.
Did they know to take your face?
No. I've been going to these events for I know the camera guys by name and stuff.
Yeah.
But this was just they had his dad on before when his dad got wrecked. Yeah. So then he goes, they're not the only ones. He goes, Odell Beckham Jr. said, get me out of this town, and then goes and wins the Super Bowl. And my jaw hit the floor like, dude, what the heck? So I was like,
cut too deep.
I'm like rolling, like I was like bouncing back and forth, just kind of in like shock. And honestly, anger, a mix of anger and uncomfortable laughter, because you're like, how could he just, like, what is going on right now? And of course, the consummate heel and professional he is, he wanted these people to boo him, and boy,
he did it.
He did it. And I'll tell you, there are a lot of people around town not happy with him whatsoever. And is he still the nicest guy? Yeah, he ends up hanging out, taking pictures, signing autographs with people for hours and hours afterwards. But then when he was in that ring with those lights on, bright, oh boy, dastardly.
Boy, that is to go from hero to villain that quickly.
Yes,
incredible.
And the best part was
stuff.
He is the pro that he is. He built it up so well that it even took, like, after the first couple of insults, they weren't like, it wasn't registering yet that he had.
Took a second.
Yeah, it took a second for people. Even George, even his own dad was like, wait a second. I don't think what he's saying is very nice about me. And it wasn't.
Oh, that's fun. That is very,
it was
very fun.
Great time.
Hey, it's fun to be Aaron Rodgers. The deal gets done. 4 years, $200 million reportedly is the deal. Highest paid player in NFL history. $153 million of that reportedly guaranteed.
What?
The cap number actually goes down. So I'm actually convinced that the cap is just nonsense. I just think it's something very easily manipulated. This is another example of that. The thing that's pretty crazy about this is the way that this broke. So McAfee broke it. He broke it, and then Rappaport went after that. And then McAfee has been saying things are false about the monetary amount in this over the course all morning. Been saying, actually, it's not that. That's not true. So says my sources.
Which is Aaron Rodgers.
His source being Aaron Rodgers. I assume Rodgers is going to be on his show at some point. I think the biggest winner of the day, not named Aaron Rodgers, is Ben Albright, who called the exact date and the money. He called both. It's a remarkable thing. He said by March 8th, and he said $50 million per. That's what happened. I mean, he's been spiking the football himself a little bit this morning, and I say good for him. He deserves to.
There's no doubt. And he said on our now his story about, Latte Larry, the Spite store, and then his notion that Rodgers waited an extra week because Albright had broke that he was going to break it on that Tuesday is, to me, one of the more stunning things, because Albright told us at the Combine on that Tuesday, March 1st, he said, yeah, he was going to break it today, and Beau's got connections at the program with McAfee, and that was the buzz that they thought it was going to be broken. And then apparently, because Albright had broken this, Rodgers like, no, you won't get it today. And Albright said he'll get it next Tuesday, and he gave the amount, and sure enough, here it is. So, yeah, Albright absolutely take a victory lap because he called it. And you knew from your sources over there that they were expecting it that Tuesday as well, and he went full Mocha Joe. So
he nailed it. He absolutely crushed it.
Yep.
I mean, the guy crushed it. He hit it out of the park on every front. What's crazy about this is this now locks Rodgers in. Now, we're curious what the details on this are. Like, is it a 2-year and walk? It does seem a consensus that the 153 guaranteed is that. And I know people are going to be panicking about the 153. I would just say, go look at the guaranteed money in baseball players' contracts. By the way, all of it. Go look at the guaranteed money in basketball players' contracts. By the way, all of it. And then see if you have a problem with Aaron Rodgers at 153 because he's worth every penny of that to them. He makes them a contender for the foreseeable. As long as he's a quarterback there, they got a shot. Now, he's got to get better in the postseason, but as long as he's there, they got to punch his chance to win the Super Bowl. So This is remarkable. The crazy thing is like this all started with Jordan Love, and Jordan Love is now likely not going to ever play for the Green Bay Packers as their starter. I would assume they would try to deal him now.
They've got to, right? So he's in the quarterback carousel because otherwise he's going to play out his rookie contract and never play. And if the number, by the way, you said the 153 guaranteed, that means it's 3 minimum. If 153 is guaranteed, that's a 3-year deal minimum. He's not walking before that. So that's where it looks like, and that means you go through Jordan Love. This was his second year. Jordan Love now, you're talking about 4 years and a 5th-year option. That takes him through the duration of this time with Aaron Rodgers. So that is Jordan Love's the ship has sailed, brother. Like, you're not playing with the Green Bay Packers, barring an injury. So I would imagine if there's some team out there that had a nice evaluation of him, that they will probably, kick the tires on him because at this point, why wouldn't you?
Wouldn't it be Denver, wouldn't it? Wouldn't they be the first call? I mean, if they like him, if Hackett liked him,
sure.
I mean, that would be your first call if Jordan Love can play. If he can play,
Denver's
then
the team
Denver
that's going
calls
to
about
want him.
Love.
Yep, 100%.
Correct. If he can play, Hackett knows exactly what he is. He knows if he's better than what they have, and that would be the straight line on that. But this was hanging over the combine, and now it's done. He will be a Packer and probably be the last team that he plays for at this point. The only wild card left out there, because it doesn't feel like Wilson's going anywhere, and the heavy odds are he doesn't. Kyler, not that he was going anywhere anyway, but he put the Cardinals stuff back up on his Instagram. The only thing that was kind of hanging out there that still is, there are two, Deshaun Watson, and the uncertainty around him is just, there's so much. It's hard for me. I didn't get the feeling when we were over there, and you correct me if you got a different feeling. I didn't get a feeling that anybody thought anything was close on that at all. That it seemed almost possible that he might have to sit out another year. It's kind of what it seemed to me. Like, it just seemed like there was nothing on the Deshaun Watson front, and that teams were going to have to basically wait till he was completely cleared to try to find a way off of him. The only other thing I thought is Brady. And the only way that works is if he plays in San Francisco, but that would be if the Buccaneers, they would have to acquiesce. Or the Buccaneers could pay him more. He could look at this Rodgers deal and say, hey, I want an extension. 3 years, 125, or 3 years, 150, with 100 guaranteed. He could do that to the Bucks, and maybe that's how that works.
That is going to be interesting because you're right, and it feels like, and I've seen stuff start to come out now that, basically the Russ isn't going anywhere either. Now,
right.
Anything can change in an instant, but that's what the sense is there. So you're right.
Yep.
Watson. Boy, at the combine, everybody seemed to feel like he was going to get moved, and that there was, even some of the people we talked to, there's a sense that there's going to be a team that isn't going to wait for him to be fully cleared to make a move. But
yeah,
it also didn't feel like people were expecting to see Deshaun Watson play a full season in 2022.
Right.
Like, it felt like nobody was. And so what's interesting to me about that, right, is – and for Watson, the date is, 3 weeks away, 3 weeks and change. April 1st is when the grand jury will rule whether or not there are criminal charges to be filed. If there aren't criminal charges to be filed, it will be unbelievable to me that he was not suspended at all last year. Basically sat out last year, but got paid by the Texans to sit out, right?
Right.
And that then now once he would be able to play, that's when he would be suspended. So it's a very just interesting situation in general to talk about that. But it really feels like you're not seeing all these guys. You're not going to see any of the movement. Now you're talking about Garoppolo, and I think Jordan Love is likely to be on the move, but that doesn't count. In terms of quarterbacks who have at least been to a Super Bowl, and we thought, oh, man, or guys who have been, significant players, and I would link, Deshaun Watson, while he has not been to a Super Bowl, in that group in terms of, MVP-type candidates. Those guys aren't moving. Garoppolo is going to be the best quarterback that moves. And there's going to be a lot of demand for him because of that. So he's going to go and I imagine fetch a decent penny from somebody. And, at the Combine, it felt like the Commanders were the team that was the hottest on the Garoppolo trail. It's going to be very interesting. But all of a sudden –
the 49ers win big. They won so big here.
Oh, yeah, huge. But the bursting of the quarterback – this is going to be the insane quarterback offseason. The bursting of that bubble, I think, has happened.
Yeah, it absolutely has. As you mentioned, the King, Jerry Lawler, will join us here in about 15 minutes. Coming up next, we go around the league. Included in that, a pretty shocking suspension for Calvin Ridley, or was it? We get into that coming up next. We're off and running here on a Tuesday edition. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland. Your business is shopping for an enterprise operating system partner, but you don't know where to begin. I have an answer for you. Beau Bishop here for my friends at EOX Vantage. Their data scientists are also business operations experts. Your EOX Vantage team not only builds and installs your system, they act as your ongoing tech support. So you're hiring a continuous improvement and support system. EOX Vantage is not tied to any single brand or hardware of software. You're getting a truly customized, purpose-built solution along with a partner that answers only to you. And EOX Vantage does not outsource, not at all. All the operational expertise, proprietary solutions, and tech support come from one unified partner. See how companies have profited from hiring one fully objective operating systems partner at EOXVantage.com. All right, yesterday when you saw the Calvin Ridley length of suspension, and then you saw what it was for, what was your reaction to that?
When it first happened right there, Demerit, mark it, dude, mark it. When it first happened, I saw that he had been suspended for a year, and I was like, wow, and that it was for gambling. Wow. The first thing I want to know immediately, how much did he wager? What was his success or lack thereof? Mm-hmm. That's what I wanted. That was the information I wanted. It's come out now that it was like, what, he made like about $1,500?
Yep.
So he
tweeted it.
Who did?
He tweeted that it was $1,500. Ridley said.
Ridley himself, yeah.
I bet $1,500, yeah.
And it's going to cost him $11.5 million. And I think that it's a very murky area, obviously, in the sense that, when I first came with the Browns in 13, 14, like they didn't have gambling partners. There weren't the efficient gambling partners of the NFL. Teams didn't have gambling partners. And that was one of the first things that you have to sign when you get your contract, which is ultimately, if you work in the National Football League, signed by Roger Goodell, there's a gambling policy. And it is clear you cannot bet on games. It even and it expanded, I feel like, during our time here, Gibby, to where you couldn't go into a casino on the road, strict, like maintaining the integrity of the game was communicated incredibly clearly, and they felt that anything that had to do with gambling or if people asked you about the game to get information from you, no. And so I think they're being
just to give it
super
example,
harsh.
I mean, when I got on the show, I'm like, we got to pick the games with the scores on Fridays. And you guys were like, no, we can't do that. We just have to do winners, losers. And I'm like, well, what if we use the scores?
Well, it's genius by you.
And so we use the scores. That's why it's the scores.
But
that's why you don't ever hear, if you listen to that segment, you don't ever hear us say the number.
Right.
We say scores.
Scores.
And so just like Swami did, right? All those years, boom. Like Chris Berman did, like you use the scores as the get around. So I think that's the thing that's tricky, right? Is it's the duplicitous nature of it. It's we're going to be in partnership with gambling sites going forward. Probably going to be betting parlors in every stadium.
Yep.
But we're going to ding you for a year and $11 million on a $1,500 wager. It's money that Calvin Ridley will never get back. It's career altering at minimum. It's career borderline ending potentially. I mean, it's a stunning penalty for him. Juxtaposed, you had a head coach of the Miami Dolphins within the last 2 months who said, yeah, ownership told me to lose. I mean, that happened. So if it's $11 million for Calvin Ridley, what is it for Stephen Ross if that's proven?
Right, because that would be a direct assault on the integrity of the game. I mean,
absolutely.
And
here's
again,
another one. Real quick. Think about these names. Rice.
Yep.
Adrian Peterson.
That's where I was going to go.
Hardy.
Ray Rice. Yeah.
Josh Gordon. I mean, Josh Gordon smoked weed. How many games did Josh Gordon lose over weed?
A lot. And was Ray Rice 2?
A lot.
Was Ray Rice 2?
Yeah. Ray Rice got 2. Adrian Peterson got 6. Greg Hardy's went from 10 to 4 for physically abusing women.
Yeah.
Children in the case of Adrian Peterson, and that's this. Chris Godwin bets Calvin Ridley bets $1,500, and it's $11 million. It doesn't seem to fit the crime to me, man.
It is, in my opinion, this is an example is being made.
Yeah, no question.
And examples being made that, look, no matter what, especially as we get in more and more with the gambling companies, which means great revenue for all of us. It means more revenue for the teams. It means ultimately, right, higher salary caps, more money for you, the player. You cannot dabble in this world. You cannot do it. And what Calvin Ridley did for a man of his means and what he's earned, and even in his brief career, it was like he bet $1 for a lot of us, right?
Yeah.
And they're gonna cost him $11.5 million. It's very harsh, but I will tell you, was I surprised by it at all? I was not. No, I was not surprised in the least that it was that harsh, because they do not want, anything to question the integrity of the game. And so having wagering involved right there, they don't want any part of that. Now, people would say, well, then you got to get the officiating cleaned up. That's a bigger issue than Calvin Ridley betting $1,500 on games when he's not playing. But that's why it was what it was.
Yeah, and the story leading up to this was fascinating because, according to multiple reports, it felt like there were teams zeroing in on a deal for Ridley.
So that was reported, but then it was reported after the fact that, like, the Falcons actually told all the teams, hey, this is going down. Like, we're probably not going to be able to trade him. And so that maybe there weren't these talks. I found that all of that line of discussion very confusing.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was almost like, okay, let's have conversations, and then now we can't because the Falcons got wind of it. There's a lot of other things to get to around the league, but I can't tell you how surreal it is to be sitting here on a Zoom and see Gibbe and then see the King behind him.
Yeah,
I mean, the
that's
King
right.
is in the room with Gibbe. I mean, that's happening.
Right. That is.
So we'll get to that. That's coming up next. The icon, Jerry the King Lawler, will join Z in studio, talk about Raw last night, and we'll get the answer on that Browns jersey he was wearing. It was gorgeous. That is coming up next. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland.
What an absolute treat. You hear that music, you know that you are in the presence of royalty. Jerry the King Lawler back home here in Cleveland after a great night of Monday Night Raw, which we'll talk about in a second. But King, first of all, it's just great to be able to sit in the same room with you.
Oh, please.
Have some normalcy and be able to have you here again.
Well, it's always great to come back to Cleveland. Last night being there at Monday Night Raw and seeing all the great fans. I don't know. You were there, front row.
Yeah.
And we all have, arguments over this. Who got the biggest pop of the night?
Ooh, that's a good question. Biggest pop of the night?
Come on, wait a minute.
Hold on. Let me
look,
you gotta let me set it up.
Okay,
you
set
gotta
it
let
up.
me sell
Set
it.
it up. Okay.
There's a big pop for RK Bro winning. The Miz coming out, Logan Paul, but the biggest pop of the night, right here, my friend, the King. The place came unglued, King. It was shaken to the rafters.
I'll tell you, and I don't know how to even describe it. The feeling that you get when you're the person that walks out, from the back, and all of a sudden you hear that kind of response from thousands and thousands of fans here in Cleveland. I don't know. It was just amazing. I know all I kept saying on the way to the ring is I'm looking up. I'm just going, wow. It's unreal.
You could see that on your face. And is that what, for somebody who's accomplished so much in the business as you have, to still have a moment like that, is that what kind of fuels your heart and just kind of always reinvigorates your love for what it is that you do and what you've done for decades?
You know what? I'm a sort of live in the moment kind of guy, in the fact that I never sit around and think about like the past. I don't
Sure.
think about matches. I mean, I've had people say, what's a 5-star match? And when I came up through the business, it was like going to work every day. It was like people, here, when I come here to the Browns facility and I'm in awe. I'm looking around and saying, oh my gosh, this is so cool. But then I see people that are here at work every day and I realize it's just going to work for these people,
Yeah.
right? And that's the way it always was for me to go to wrestling matches. I never looked at any. Whenever I'd have a match, and back in the day we wrestled, 6, sometimes 7 nights a week. So I never went home thinking, wow, was that a 5-star match? Or it was like going to work every day. So to have a moment like I did last night, yeah, it does. I guess you said reinvigorate you. It really does. Yeah, it's so special because I've been doing this. I hate to say it, but I've been doing this 52 years.
Wow.
It sounds crazy
to
even say it, but
and
so,
you
yeah.
still look great.
Oh, thank you.
Still look great. So when you hear that music, it's your music. So when I hear that music, for me, obviously I know it means that you're coming out, which gets me excited. But I still, in my mind, it's synonymous with going to a big show.
Yeah.
And then I would hear that music. I'd hear Boomer Sooner. And then it was like, all right, things from your announcing days. Then it's like, all right, we're about to have the show. This is why we're at WrestleMania. Here you would come out. Now, of course, you'd go beat up Michael Cole occasionally at WrestleMania.
Yeah, right.
For the situation called for. But that's what it was for me. Like you're the voice. You and Jay are the voice of my wrestling fandom, honestly, for a long time. And I know you worked with Michael Cole for a while as well.
I hear that so much, especially like right now. A lot of times I do. These things are getting big now. Comic Cons. And I just came from Wichita, Comic Con in Wichita, Kansas, straight here to Cleveland for the show yesterday. But I hear that so many times. This statement, you and JR were the voice of my childhood.
Yeah. And
I always tell people, as soon as they say that, I say, that's why you're scarred for life. So, but that's another thing that I did take for granted how prominent and what a big part we were of people's lives. I mean, still like Monday Night Raw, the guys go out there, do a wrestling match. Today, a long match is 6 or 7 minutes.
Right.
That's a long match.
Yeah.
And excuse me, throat dry. But anyway, JR and I would have to be out there every week for 3 hours trying to be entertaining, trying to come up with something different to say and everything. And so a lot of people think it was just a lot of fun and real piece of cake. Well, you're doing it right here. When you're trying to fill 3 hours without making a mistake or without saying something to offend somebody, which I unfortunately did that a few times. But how can you not when you're on that many? I've been on more Monday Night Raw shows than anybody in the history of the company. Even Vince McMahon. Yeah, I've been on more Raw shows than anybody. So but just especially coming back to Cleveland and getting to go out. I did throw in a couple of things that weren't. That I wasn't told to say, because I mentioned my childhood here. I got to mention. I said, anybody here from the three places that I lived up here was Lorraine.
Okay, hold on. The pop you got for saying Lorraine made me feel like everybody who was in Lorraine was at the show last night, because it was a 100% pop.
I thought the exact same thing. And then I mentioned Vermilion, not quite as big as Lorraine, but then where I lived for 8 years was Amherst.
Yep.
And as a matter of fact, as soon as I get out of here today, I'm heading out to Amherst. I have to. It's like going back, and it's like the Twilight Zone. It's city of Amherst, Ohio. The little downtown place has not changed since 1963. And I just love it. A Ben Franklin store is still
nostalgia.
Open.
Yeah, you got to love that. A trip down memory lane. Now, you came out yesterday. We talked about it earlier on the show. You came out in a beautiful, and that was a very vintage Browns jersey.
Yes,
95 said Lawler on it. Was that always given? Was that always a Lawler jersey, or was that, we were wondering, was it a Camarion Wembley jersey maybe?
It's as soon as my buddy Brad
Bellin, the great equipment guy. And by the way, I've talked about, you're wearing the coveted shirt, a Browns equipment staff with a Brownie the elf on it. That is coveted.
This is coveted. They just threw it to me when I came in today.
Because you're the king. That's what happens. It's good to be the king, as they say.
No, I did hear a little background on how much.
Yes, I've been going after the sweatshirt king for years. And every time Brad walks by me and he goes like this, which he's showing me the logo of that, and I'm on the precipice, still don't have it. And you walk right in, you're like, yeah, king. Good to be the king.
Well, in actuality, I'm going to have to admit something. This is not actually the hoodie sweatshirt.
It's not the hoodie, that
you covet.
Oh, believe me.
Would you be happy with just this?
You gotta aim high, brother. You gotta aim high. It's like you wanted to be the main event, right?
Yes.
Come on,
you want
that's
the hoodie.
The exclusive. That is the one that apparently you just cannot get.
I know.
I bet you can get one.
It's pretty cool.
I bet you can get one of the hoodies.
Well, I'm not going to say.
Yeah, don't say. Well, you probably, if you get it. I was the one time when I felt like I was really the closest. Like, if you get this now, you can't wear this out of your house. And I was like,
yeah.
What do you mean?
I know.
If I get it, I want to wear it everywhere. It's the only thing I want to wear.
And I heard this word downstairs a while ago. You don't have the hoodie given to you. It has to be bestowed on you.
Yeah,
yes.
And apparently there's a ceremony where it passes through many hands before it gets to you. So hopefully I'll be lucky. If not, I'll live vicariously through you, King.
Well, it's really good. I mean, the people can't see us right now, but it's this Cleveland Browns equipment staff.
That's right.
And you got the little brownie in the middle. It's really nice.
It is.
I'll wear it a lot.
It is top notch. So you had the throwback jersey on. You come out. You get the biggest pop of the night, as we all knew. We were there, deafening, I would say. And you get out there with a couple of other Cleveland guys.
Yeah.
You're out with Logan Paul. You're out with The Miz. And all of a sudden, The Miz just takes it down a dark road, King.
What happened?
What happened to that guy?
I have no idea.
Hollywood.
I knew something was, I was still backstage. I hadn't come out yet. But I knew something went a little awry with that one statement when he said about his father. He said, if I'd followed in my father's footsteps, I'd be flipping burgers.
At Mr. Hero.
Yeah. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, that's not a good sign.
I don't think you sang that nicely.
I know it. So then when I got out there and I mentioned our three cities there and everything was going swimmingly, and all of a sudden I thought, and I'm thinking this is gonna help endear Miz to the crowd here. Yeah. And I said, Miz, what do you think? I think it'd be a great idea to have WrestleMania right here in Cleveland, Ohio.
Yeah.
And I could see the look on his face. He just went, eh?
That's a pretty good recreation of that face
exactly.
He gave you right there.
Really, King? And I just stopped in my tracks. I said, well, yeah, I just listened to you just out here singing the praises of Cleveland. What do you think?
Yeah.
And he said, I don't think Cleveland is a WrestleMania city.
Yeah. Hurtful.
Very hurtful.
Hurtful. Then you go and ask, well, how about a Super Bowl?
Yeah.
And then it just went completely off the rails.
Yes,
that's
exactly.
when he's talking about the Ravens.
He talked about the pyro. He said, city of Cleveland couldn't support the pyro at WrestleMania.
What does that even mean?
Well, he said the only time pyro is used in Cleveland is when the lake catches on fire. That was not good either.
No, not good. That's right. He was feeling really proud of himself too. He was having a
Yeah.
great time. You know, the sad thing about it is, good personal friend of mine
Yeah.
on the show yesterday talking about.
Did he tip that off at all, or how was he talking?
No, he's talking about how whenever
Loves
he
it.
flies into Cleveland, when he comes through the clouds and he sees the city, where he was born, and he gets emotional and how special it is, and he's talking about how great the Browns are and how we're going to go win and this, that. No hint whatsoever of what he was going to do.
What was? Have you talked to him since?
I have talked to him since.
What did he say?
He said, listen, he said, I didn't say anything that wasn't true.
Oh.
Said everything I said was a fact. People don't like it, but he said that everything I said is true. I said, but dude, come on.
Yeah.
But, listen, I think that he enjoys.
Well, you and I don't think that's a fact, and everybody in
I
Cleveland.
don't think it's a fact.
No, absolutely.
In his warped Hollywood view, it's a fact. But he's, I think that he goes out there and he's like, he likes it. But I think there's something. I think he's addicted to being booed and hated.
Guys,
I don't think he's
Russell
comfortable.
Wilson just got traded.
We have some breaking news that just came into my ear right now. Hold on one second. To where? To where, Nick?
Broncos, 1 second.
ESPN Cleveland, breaking news.
Well, I'll present this one with royalty. We have a blockbuster trade in the National Football League.
This is bigger than what the Miz
Yes.
heel turn last
Who
night.
cares about your heel turn? Go get booed on your own time. After weeks of negotiations and one of the largest trades in NFL history, the Seattle Seahawks and the Denver Broncos have agreed to terms for a deal involving Russell Wilson. Sources tell ESPN. Trade is pending a physical and Wilson's approval.
Wow.
Tom Pelissero from NFL Network. Multiple first-round draft picks, additional picks, and players as well going to Seattle.
And he's coming into the AFC. King, we don't need any more quarterbacks coming into the
No,
AFC.
not like Russell Wilson. We don't.
So now you've got in the AFC, you have got Russell Wilson, you have got Mahomes, you have got Burrow, you have got Josh Allen, you have got Herbert, you have got Lamar Jackson, who was recently an MVP. You've got our Baker Mayfield,
Yes.
Deshaun Watson. We don't know what's going on with him, but you talk about a conference that is loaded with quarterbacks.
Loaded.
By the way, Aaron Rodgers staying in Green Bay, which we found out today for reportedly $153 million guaranteed. That must be nice. That sounds like a wonderful number.
Pocket change to me in the Miz, right?
Yes.
No, $153 million.
Guaranteed.
How can they sign anybody else for that team?
So apparently in the
Where do they get that kind of money?
amazing salary cap ability to move things around,
Yeah.
it's lowering his cap number for this year because they're spreading it out as signing bonuses or this, that, whatever. I don't quite understand that. We have a guy, Chris Cooper, here, genius at that. I'll leave that stuff to him. But, yeah, but who else is in the NFC? You got him and Stafford, really. Brady's no longer playing. Brees no
Right.
longer playing.
Ooh-wee.
It is wild. A wild time. See, King, you come on here, big things happen. You come into segments, and then you get a big pop, and then things just explode all around you. Now we got Russell Wilson going to the Denver Broncos.
Yeah. Are you happy about that? Do you think that's
No,
I'm not
happy
either.
about it.
I'm
No.
not either.
Stay
Wait,
in the NFC.
what does it say? It's all up to his approval?
So it's up to he must have approved. He has a no trade, so he had to sign off on the fact that it was going to be into Denver, but it's based on his physical. Oh, it does say and Wilson's approval, so he would have to sign off on it, which apparently he has in his no trade. Denver was the team that he was willing to go to. Absolute blockbuster. Wouldn't expect anything less with you on the air, King. We've got to take a break now.
Yes.
It's getting just crazy, but
Let's get the
thank you
details.
so much for being here.
My
Congratulations on it. Was a special moment, and some of the people around me
Absolutely.
were like, "This is a special moment. Getting to see you come back into Cleveland, get that kind of pop. It was a beautiful thing." And so, thank you for spending.
It's
some time
always
with
a
us
beautiful
today.
time, beautiful thing to come back to Cleveland. I love it.
And we love having you here. Big season ahead for the Browns. We
Yes.
can feel it. Let's go. We'll be back with more Cleveland Browns Daily right after this.
Lots of bad advice out there about gambling, from secret methods to picking lottery numbers to betting big when you're on a roll. The myths can lose you money and get you in a lot of trouble. So before you wager, find out what's real and what isn't at keepitfunohio.com. Z mentioned there in his conversation with the King, Jerry Lawler, that we have the first real blockbuster in a long time of the NFL in terms of this deal for Russell Wilson to Denver. Actually, since a year ago, since Matthew Stafford's deal from Detroit to Los Angeles. So this is Wilson going to Denver from Seattle. Multiple picks involved with this. It says contingent on Wilson's approval. I have to imagine that he would have given approval before this would have happened, because this isn't something that springs up. In fact, there's been reporting that this has been in the works for a couple of weeks, which leads you to believe what we all believed on the Rodgers thing over at the Combine, that was a fait accompli for a while, that he was returning to Green Bay or potentially retiring. And so the Broncos pivoted. They went in this direction with Russell Wilson. I'll give him credit, buddy. There was not a whisper around Russell Wilson at the Combine. Nothing. A whisper. And for this to drop today is pretty surprising.
In fact, it was the opposite in that he wasn't going to be going anywhere. People did not think he was going. And we, by the way, some of the things I said in the opening segment aged poorly in the last 30 minutes when I said it's going to be Garoppolo, maybe Jordan Love. Well, Russell Wilson is now going to Denver, which is ridiculous. I'm not going to sit here. I'm not going to cry about it. What I'm going to say now is I hope, if I'm AB, what I'm doing right now is I'm picking up the phone and I'm calling Seattle and I'm saying, what's going on with you and DK Metcalf? Because he's entering the last year of his rookie deal. He's 6'4". He's as vertical as it gets. He would change the way teams have to defend us as an offense. And quite frankly, let's be honest about it. You're in an arms race now. You're in a conference where you are in an arms race, and the goal will be to score as many points as possible. We fortunately have pieces on the back end. We fortunately have Myles Garrett, but this is a team that is going to need to score. And my guess is in Seattle, if you have traded Russell Wilson for a bunch of ones and all of that, there is no quarterback in this draft that is going to all of a sudden step in. My guess is you're entering a multi-year rebuild and that you would be interested in divesting on an asset for a guy that's going to cost you a ton of money at a premium position before maybe you necessarily have a guy who's ready to play there. So I see this, and my mind went immediately to, I want to call up, and I want to get DK Metcalf in the brown and orange.
Boy, you wish you could change divisions, don't you?
Conferences. Who's left?
I mean, conferences, yeah. I mean, you wish you could flip conferences. That's why I'm surprised this happened, because, they lost so many close games a year ago. Seattle did. They were in a lot of games, and they lost so many close games, played pretty good down the stretch. And when you looked at the landscape of the NFC with Brady's retirement, it was wide open. Like, there's not that much of a difference between Seattle and L.A. There really wasn't. With Pete Carroll being 70 years old, I just thought, gosh, are they really going to tear this thing down to the studs, all the while acknowledging that now is probably the perfect time for them to do this, because they felt like clearly the flip side of that would be, well, we're not really going anywhere. We've kind of been the same for a while, and now they're going to land a ton of picks going back the other way that they can now build that roster around. Now you got to go get the quarterback, and Wilson's what, 34? 33, 34, somewhere in that. He's similar to the age of Stafford. Yeah. Slightly younger, I think. Not much.
Came in the league in 2012. Russell Wilson is 33 and 99 days. By the way, DK Metcalf, in case you're wondering at home, despite being in the league 3 years, just 24 years of age.
Yeah.
That's what I'm at. That's where I'm at. That's where I've landed.
Yeah, I mean, you look around the NFC right now, you're talking about Green Bay, which is, they'll be the favorites along with the Rams, but the Rams are retooling. You have to think Von Miller knew what was coming. He's been tweeting cryptically about returning to Denver. He must have got wind of it, because he was pretty emphatic that he was going back to Denver on his Instagram in the last couple of days. You've got an aging L.A. Rams team with no real ability to improve in the draft. And then what? Dallas? Like, who's third in the NFC? The NFC South's an unmitigated disaster. Cardinals, sure. So you have the Cardinals in that division.
Niners.
Yeah, but geez, they got huge questions. They're going to be starting a second-year quarterback. Conversely, you look at the AFC. My God, the AFC West. Dude. Are you kidding? Mahomes, Wilson, and Herbert
and
in
Carr.
The AFC
it's
West.
not like
Carr's no slouch.
Carr's no bum.
No.
The AFC now, you have at the top of the division in the quarterback hierarchy, you have got Mahomes, Russell Wilson, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, a guy who does it differently than the five I mentioned but was recently the MVP of the league, Lamar Jackson. You've got potentially Deshaun Watson at some point, right? That's 7 guys. Not to mention, a lot of people think Trevor Lawrence with Doug Peterson is going to be the guy that was drafted number 1 overall that's supposed to be a star that everybody loved coming out of college. You know, that's 8. That's half of the conference. And then the guys that aren't listed there, you know, Baker, Carr, these are not bad quarterbacks. You know, guys who have been successful in the league. Like, you're talking about good quarterback. You've got a conference where the bottom of the quarterback list, if you go in the, you know, in the South, you don't know what's going on in Indy per se, but that was Carson Wentz, who at one point in his career played like an MVP of the league and was on a team that won a Super Bowl that he guided to there for the most of the regular season. Not bad either, by the way, Carson Wentz.
No.
Not great, not bad. You don't know what's going on in Pittsburgh. You've got Tua, who has done fine in Miami. You've got Zach Wilson, who was a rookie number 2 overall pick a year ago that they're going to get some weapons for and have weapons. And Elijah Moore looks like he's going to be a star. You got Corey Davis, who was unhealthy for much of last year. But this is a conference, man. Where are the easy games?
There aren't any.
There aren't any. And you're talking about a murderer's row. The AFC West, when you're talking about those 4 quarterbacks and the top 3 obviously being
elite.
It's as elite as it gets. I'm trying to, and I don't want to be prone to hyperbole whatsoever. And you would say, well, maybe last year in the NFC West, when you had, you know, your 4 quarterbacks in the NFC West a year ago were Stafford, were Kyler, Russell, and Garoppolo. That's good, but that doesn't feel like Mahomes, Russ, and Herbert and Carr to me.
No, it's not on that level. No.
I mean, is that the best division of quarterbacks we've ever had in the league? And I'm throwing that out there without even contemplating the research.
Yeah,
but
I'm just trying to think of anything close. I don't have anything. I don't have anything in the vicinity of it. It feels like it's on its own from a standpoint. I mean, if you were doing the top 10 quarterbacks in the league, you would have 3 of them in that division.
Yeah.
Wilson's right on the edge of that.
Yes.
I mean, if he's
the
first 2 are no doubters, and Wilson somewhere between 8 and 12.
Drew Lock part of the trade to
the
the Seahawks, by the way. Drew Lock going to the Seahawks as well.
Yeah. Boy, it's a gauntlet. You think about the 6 teams, the 7 teams that'll make the playoffs in the AFC, and the level of quarterback. You're right. You got to go out and score it, and you say, well, we got to get better at this. And I like your idea of going after DK Metcalf. One of the guys that was bandied about was Mike Williams. That's not going to be possible. He's reached an agreement with the Chargers. 3 years, $60 million, $40 million of it guaranteed. So that's not going to be a path in terms of improving your roster. I like what you say. I mean, you don't want to. This is just the reality of it, man. You're going to need to score a lot of points in this conference to win. A lot. You're going to need to be in the mid-30s to win against teams like this with these quarterbacks. That's the reality of where you are today.
Yes. That's it. And listen, we got into this with Greg Cosell. If you didn't hear it, perhaps we'll run it again, but I want you to go back and listen to it about the difference in the change. And in this conference in particular, well, guess what? It just got more loaded. It just got harder to think that you can play a brand of football that is not built around your ability to throw the football, produce chunk plays, and score. This is going to be This is a critical offseason. We've talked about it because it's the passing game. That's where you have to improve the most. We have said for a long time that is the number 1 priority of this team. It just got a little bit more important than it was even a few days ago when it was the most important thing. So this is, for the Browns, a very important offseason to figure out how to improve what looks to be the supporting cast around your quarterback, Baker Mayfield, and to get him back to what we saw in the second half of 2020. And the names that were potentially available to make a huge move like that: Rodgers staying, Russ, Denver, Watson, unknown. There's one left, and there is a ton of baggage and uncertainty around it. So it is likely that this is what you are going to be doing, and now I think what you need to do is try to get guys. And listen, a 6'4", 235 guy who averages 15 yards a catch for his career and 10 touchdowns a season, that feels like it because you know he's going to be a darn good run blocker as well when we're trying to get some of those chunk runs. But that's – our roster is built to win now. Yeah? Right? Like, I think we all agree that.
Well, it's the question is on the fly. I mean, that's I think what you ought to get to next. The roster's built to win now, but is it built to win in this AFC? And I would say not without some serious amendments from a talent standpoint.
Well, you throw
because
DK
right now we can't keep up. Let's get into that coming up next. We're up against it. Let's get into that coming up next because this does change the landscape of things in the AFC dramatically. Enormous trade out of the NFL. Russell Wilson headed to Denver for a bounty back. But nevertheless, something that, frankly, nobody saw coming. Don't let anybody tell you they saw this one coming. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Well, the weather is chilly again outside. A nice hot bath or shower would feel amazing. And why not transform your bathroom into a custom bath that'll feel like a spa? Let the Bath Authority make it a reality for you at a fraction of the cost of the competitors. The Bath Authority is Cleveland's premier bath and shower remodeler with expert factory-trained installers. Call now, $500 off your next custom bath or shower remodel. That number is 216-220-8399 or go to thebathauthority.com. It's where affordability meets quality. Largest selection of bath projects, all made in the United States. You can change your bathroom from outdated to outstanding. Acrylic tubs that insulate and keep the heat in. Tub-to-shower conversions available as well. Simply put, superior products, expert installers. Give them a call, 216-220-8399. If you call right now, you get $500 off your next custom bath or shower remodel, and tell them that Beau sent you. As we come across here, the second hour of the program, the NFL turned on its head at the end of the last hour with the trade of Russell Wilson to Denver. Getting some clarity on what the deal is. Looks like Drew Lock's in this, a defensive lineman, and a bunch of picks is probably what it's going to be. It completely you have to be careful in these times, and you use the right word in hyperbolic because it's easy to get hyperbolic in these times. But I would say when you think about the AFC right now and you ask the question, how do you keep up? You're going to have to get a lot of weapons is what you have to do. I mean, this has changed. I know discipline, you want to stay disciplined, stay within yourself, but you talk about how good our roster is. It's going to have to be a little different than intended if you're going to keep up with the amount of offensive firepower in this AFC because, buddy, it's not like Wilson is going to a Denver team that lacks talent. They're loaded.
Yeah, this is a big deal. I mean, the bottom line is that this is a big deal. And the Browns, I think, are a team that right now are going to have to engage in an arms race, and it's going to have to be adding talent at the wide receiver position. You've made a good move, I think a very good move, and I'm ready to see more of him, to see David Njoku be the guy that has an opportunity to, be one of those top 10 tight ends in the league. I want to see what the Chief does. Give him 100 targets, and let's see what the return on that investment is. I think it's going to be pretty darn good. So you made a good move there, but we have got to get better out wide. I mean, I love Donovan Peoples-Jones. I think he is an ascending player. I hope they're able to work things out with Jarvis Landry, but I'm talking about game breakers. DK Metcalf is a game breaker, a game changer in the draft. He who shall not be named is a game changer. Treylon Burks led the SEC and plays at 20 yards or more. That means he is a game breaker. We need those kinds of players on our team to keep up. I think we're going to be very good defensively, but it is not enough to be a good defensive team in the NFL. I don't think you can win a Super Bowl as a team based solely around your defense. You want to obviously get after the quarterback, no doubt. But you've got to be able to score the football. And I think for the Browns right now, given that Rodgers is staying put, given that Russell Wilson is now in Denver, Deshaun Watson is the one out that's still out there in the quarterback carousel world, and we have no idea what that means, and I'm not suggesting for the Browns. I'm saying, but that's the one big name that remains out there. So for the Browns, you get Baker Mayfield, some of those weapons. You get guys that are able to make these kind of plays that will allow you to be a chunk play offense and keep up with some of these teams that are being assembled here in the AFC. And with Russell Wilson going to Denver, that means there are just a lot of darn good quarterbacks in this conference.
This from Jay Glazer, the trade for 3 players, one is Drew Lock, 2 first-rounders, 2 second-rounders, and a 5th for Russell Wilson and a 4th.
Albright saying
So
Lock, Shelby Harris, and draft picks.
But only 2 first-rounders.
2 second-rounders and a 5th for Russell Wilson and a 4th.
I don't know. Glazer
2 ones,
says
2
3.
twos. Yeah, I've also heard like a significant, another young significant offensive player. But if you're Wilson, you're not going to okay this deal unless you're going to a pretty great situation, right? Like he's not going to let him trade Judy or somebody like that. So I don't think that's going to be a part of it. Otherwise, why trade for him? Locke, Harris, 2 ones, 2 twos. Good for Denver, man. Good for Denver. Of course, that's George Payton, who was with Kevin Stefanski in Minnesota, who we had interviewed for this job before. He's the general manager in Denver right now who pulled off this deal. There were 2 teams in the league the last couple of years that felt like were a quarterback away. Denver and Indy. They're the two teams that if you put a great quarterback in either spot, they would be Super Bowl contenders. Denver just did it. They just did it.
Yep.
They've done it. It's been done now. And it's an AFC now where you're going to have to score. You're going to have to score in bunches. You're going to have that quick strike ability. Who knows what Seattle's plan is? Like, I can't imagine they'd be playing Drew Lock next year. I just can't imagine that that's the long-term hope. I
Do
guess
they
it could be a
draft?
bridge.
Do they draft Malik Willis or whoever it is they think is the best quarterback? You use Locke as a bridge until that quarterback is ready to go?
I don't know if one will be there at 9 because, I mean, my guess is that I wouldn't at all be surprised if Malik Willis goes to Carolina. I think Carolina's got to go quarterback there. If they don't get in on the Deshaun Watson thing, if that doesn't happen, and don't they pick 6? I'm pretty sure they do.
So it's Noah Fant is the third player. 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, Drew Lock, Noah Fant, and Shelby Harris. So that means they're going to have Russ, Javonte Williams, Judy Sutton Hamler, maybe play Tim Patrick. He's a receiver, but big tight end, and Albert, I don't know the guy's last name, Boguam, would be their tight end. So they're just loading it up right there. Noah Fant goes to Seattle. Big body. Former first-round pick, if I'm not mistaken, Noah Fant. So that's the third one if you look at it that way.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Meantime, the AFC just got tough, even tougher than it already was. You think about, it's hard to imagine a scenario where, I mean, if you were to say right now, I think it feels, I mean, Allen's in the postseason for sure. Mahomes is in the postseason for sure. It feels like Wilson's in the postseason for sure. Burrow, it's just tricky because you don't know how that Bengals, they got hot at the right time, but you believe in Burrow, obviously.
Yes.
And what he can be. It's hard to imagine a healthy Lamar bouncing back and them not being a postseason team. They damn near were without him. I mean, heck, I just went through 5 teams.
And you didn't mention Herbert. You didn't mention the Patriots. You didn't mention us. And somebody has to represent the AFC South. They have to have a playoff team.
Right. So you have the AFC South. I did mention Herbert. Or no, I didn't. You're right. So, yes, 6 that feel like they're in. And then, I mean, it's just, boy. That's something, man. I got to tell you, you got to give them credit, both teams, because there was not a whisper of this, buddy. Not a whisper of this. Nothing.
No.
0.
Like, yeah. I mean, Albright said that if the Broncos were going to make a move, it would be only for Rodgers or Wilson, but that the feeling was that the Wilson thing was not, and they must have kept it real close to the vest because he's got a lot of stuff. And this was just...
There is something to be said because, you know, outside of the time with Manning, they have kind of been a really hit or miss operation in Denver outside of the Manning years. It's been really hit or miss since Elway retired. But there is something about that city that people love. I mean, I've been there a lot. I know you guys have been there a lot. It's easy to love it. But there's something about that organization and that city that it gets mentioned anytime people have no trades or whatever. People are quick to point out Denver as a place they'd like to play.
Yeah, and you think about the fact Peyton Manning chose to go to Denver. Russell Wilson, in this case, even though he's traded, chose to go, given his no-trade clause and what he's able to control. It's kind of remarkable. That's a pretty good, Elway, you've got Peyton, now they've got Russ, and that's a pretty good, in our lifetime, to have those 3, and not to mention they had a pretty good Jake Plummer. They had Jay Cutler slinging around for a little while.
Yeah.
Like, they've had a pretty good run there with the Denver Broncos. That's just our lifetime.
Yes, they have. Yeah. And they have, they drafted Cutler, obviously.
Yep.
But, Wilson and Manning were both acquired. So Watson's the only thing left out there that's a game changer because this is a game changer. This changes things dramatically. You were talking about the arms race. Jeff Kerr had some interesting thoughts on free agency for the AFC teams, including ours. One of the names that we mentioned was Mike Williams. That might not be in play either. So we will get to those things coming up next in terms of what else you could do at receiver to try to keep pace with the rest of this AFC because that's the objective now. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Rumpke Waste Recycling, family-owned and operated. Whether you join them as a customer or as an employee, you'll become part of the family. Visit rumpke.com to learn more on this. The story in the last hour, Russell Wilson traded to Denver, two ones, two twos, a couple of players, Drew Lock, Shelby Harris, Noah Fant, going to Seattle in exchange for Russell Wilson and a 4. So that is the deal. It comes on the heels of the Aaron Rodgers deal this morning. We report that the Rodgers deal got done, $153 million on that, 4 years, $200 with $153 guaranteed, reportedly on that front. So the two biggest fish out there in free agency from a quarterback position have now been reeled in. Aaron Rodgers staying in Green Bay, and then Denver pivoting off of Rodgers to Wilson. So that happened, boy, in the cover of night. I mean, there was just no talk of this, none. Last week at the Combine. No whispers about it today, and then it just dropped, which is pretty remarkable. Similar to the Stafford deal, wasn't it? Wasn't Stafford like that? It kind of just dropped too, didn't it?
Yeah, just came out of nowhere, and in that one it was the Niners were in on it, Seattle was in on it. I mean, the Rams were in on it. They ultimately got it done. I'd have to imagine Denver was probably in on it as well. It feels like they're in on every single quarterback. Just a wild, wild time. I just think the likelihood, if you're the Houston Texans, let's think about it from the Houston Texans perspective. Let's say, okay, you've got an opportunity to move Watson. Let's say everything goes from a Watson perspective the way you want. No criminal charges. He's able to settle everything. He's able to be moved. If you're Houston, don't you have to send him to the NFC? I mean,
if they do, because he has a no trade.
I just think
so he can dictate that.
There's got to be somewhere in the NFC. If you're him, wouldn't you want to go to the NFC?
Of course. Yes, 100%. He will push to – I mean, if you're him, you're looking at that situation in Tampa Bay. You're looking at the situation in New Orleans, perhaps. You're taking a look at the situation – I don't know if you like – I don't think you'd like what Carolina has. You'd look at Philly, and you would say, well, is that a good – what about the Giants? I think those are the conversations. But, yeah, it's NFC, man. And I wouldn't want to go to the NFC West. Like, I would pick a team in the NFC East, NFC South, and go, where's – to me, it's Tampa Bay. I mean, that's the spot.
Yep.
They got everything that you need. That would be the team that would make all the sense.
We have more. Nick, if you have that clip ready,
I do.
Sheet on NFL Network right now.
Yeah, and the reality is, Tom, for Russell Wilson, he had his choice here. We knew that there were several teams that inquired with Seattle to potentially try to trade for Russell Wilson. Washington Commanders were one of them. There was at least one more team that told Seattle, we want to come and trade for Russell Wilson. He had a no-trade clause, which really is the big hammer here. This is something that gives Wilson control over where he goes. He wanted to go to Denver. This was his preferred location in part because of the roster, the young receivers, a pretty baller defense, a new young coach in Nathaniel Hackett, who obviously had so much success. With Aaron Rodgers. Russell Wilson wanted to be a member of the Denver Broncos. That is why this deal happened. And for Denver, they have really spent the last several years trying to find a quarterback. Ever since Peyton Manning, really, they got one.
I mean, they have that's good stuff at a rap sheet. Couple things on that. They have relentlessly pursued this. It feels like they've been in on every big possibility at the position for the last few years. They've drafted them. They've tried everything, man, and they finally landed it. And boy, ask LA if they worry about giving up the picks.
No, picks don't matter. If
no,
you don't have
of course
the
not. You got to have the quarterback, and Denver went and got the quarterback. I think the one thing that was interesting, what Rapp said there, was this was his preferred destination.
Yeah.
It is a very good young roster. I take a little bit of umbrage in the notion that Nathaniel Hackett had all the success with Aaron Rodgers. It's LaFleur's offense. LaFleur's calling plays. Like, settle down on giving credit.
By the way,
okay, let's.
Everybody's had success. Everybody's had success with Aaron Rodgers. Like, Aaron Rodgers is just really good.
He's really good. Let's settle down on that. But from Denver's perspective, there is something. The roster's nice, but people love that. They love that franchise. People want to go to that franchise. I mean, when Manning went there, he had all sorts of tours. He went to Tennessee, San Francisco. he ended up deciding to go in Denver and play there, and then he stayed in that market post his playing career. He stayed in the market. People like living there, and they like being there, and so now it'll be Russell Wilson there. In terms of ways to improve this roster so that you can contend in this absurd arms race that is the AFC, Jeff Kerr from CBS Sports talking about a 2022 free agent fit for every AFC team. He mentions DJ Chark, who you mentioned last week, Chark from Jacksonville, that he would be a fit with us here in Cleveland. Some other notable pairings, he has Gronk going to Buffalo, Juju to KC, Allen Robinson to New England, and Mitch Trubisky to Pittsburgh, which all, it's interesting on their own merit, but none of those are deals that I would say, oh my gosh, this changes the trajectory of the AFC the way this Russell Wilson deal did. Also the Mike Williams deal, right? Because that happened while all this was happening. Williams, everybody thought would hit free agency. He's not. 3 years, $60 million, 40 of it guaranteed. Godwin got franchised as well with the franchise tag. So there might not be as many in free agency at receiver as you thought.
No, I don't. In fact, there likely will not be. And you'll have opportunities. We mentioned Chark. I think Brandon Cooks is a guy that'll be available via trade. I still like that idea for the Cleveland Browns. But you're going to have to make some moves. Like, bottom line, right now what we have cannot score and keep up with what's around us in our division. Now, we've got the best run game arguably in the league. Best backfield in the league. That's without argument. But this is a league predicated upon throwing the football, throwing it effectively, putting up chunk plays. We need some more talent in that wide receiver room. And I think that is – the funny thing is everybody's, oh, man, now people are kind of panicking and freaking out. Well, Russ is – the charge was the same. Like, I realized Russ coming here, it's like, oh, another one? But you still had to beat Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, Herbert, Burrow in your division. You're going to have to compete with those teams. Now, we're 4-0 against the Bengals since they drafted Joe Burrow number 1 overall. Nonetheless, you need to be a team that can throw the football independent of your ability to run the football to have any chance to make a run, the kind of run you need to go, which is at a minimum 3 games, at a maximum 4 games to win a Super Bowl. And that's what we're here to do. That's what this is about for the Cleveland Browns. It's about winning a Super Bowl. And, yeah, there's another stud that just came into our conference. But we can be a very, very effective football team. We saw it 2 years ago, and we need to see it again. But we need to increase our talent to big-time players make big-time plays. We need to get some guys that make these big plays on the offensive side of the football to complement where we already are incredibly strong.
Yep. Yeah, it just took another, what it probably does is it makes it feel like another spot for the playoffs are taken away because now Denver will occupy one of those. It would be a shock if they didn't make the postseason. Absolutely shocking if they didn't make it with Wilson at quarterback. This is from Jim Trotter, who's been around the NFL for a very long time, and I guess I didn't think of it in this perspective. But he said if Seattle wanted to send Wilson out of the NFC, which is what he was hearing, makes me wonder, based on talks with others, if Houston will seek to move Watson out of the AFC, and could Seattle being a landing spot for Deshaun Watson, considering it has a need for QB and wants to win now, that certainly would. Now they have a lot of ammo to go after Deshaun Watson if they want to.
They most certainly do. They most certainly do. That would be interesting.
It's also a place where you could, if you're dealing with the backlash for the off-field stuff, it's pretty easy to hide at Seattle.
Yeah, not really going to be in the media spotlight there.
No.
That would be a very interesting thing. It's just this has big reverberations. But what I'm saying is, I don't think people need to go ahead and think that, oh man, well now it's a panic. We've been forced to upgrade this passing game all offseason. That doesn't change now because Russell Wilson's a Denver Bronco. Does it add another team that you are going to have to contend with most likely in a postseason run potentially? Yes, but it doesn't change the task that's been presented in front of Andrew Berry. Now, maybe it could make a guy like DK Metcalf more available. It could not. They could say, wait, we're not giving up a 24-year-old 6'4" freak athlete who's a home run hitter just because we got rid of Russell Wilson. We're going to have a quarterback in the next 2 years, and we want to have him here. They could do that, but I'm certainly inquiring. I still think, Brandon Cooks, those two are probably the top 2 targets, I'm curious what, people in the biz think if Allen Robinson has left. One of my favorite guys ever that I evaluated. It was so good coming out of Penn State in 2014. But, where's he at now at this stage in his career with the injuries he's had and just the lack of production we saw this past season was like startling. But you've got to address this. You got to get Clowney back or another pass rusher. A lot of people are saying with the Rodgers deal, you would still think that, Zadarius Smith is not going to be able to come back and that there will be the opportunities to get, some big-time pass rushers. Now, if you could do that, that's what you need to do. Obviously, number one, Clowney, you want to have him back. But you got to get the pass rushers, and you got to get receivers. And that's what it's been the entire offseason. That's all we talked about at the Combine a week ago. That's what everybody talked about for us a week ago. So it's not hard to figure out what needs to be done here with this Cleveland Browns team, but you got to try and get out there and get it done.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, this is going to be a tough task to try to do. I was just thinking about this. It's pretty interesting that Stafford and Wilson were both traded still in their primes. Our whole life as NFL fans, these type of players, franchise quarterbacks, and those two most assuredly are, obviously, they usually didn't move on until they were not wanted anymore by organization. They were viewed as, that you had them forever. Like, if you draft Russell Wilson, he plays his entire career in Seattle until it's at the end, and then you do what happened to Montana, and there's countless others. Unitas, name it, tons of them that's happened to, where you play at the end of your career for a year or two, but you're long past your prime. These are back-to-back off seasons where quarterbacks in their primes, accomplished quarterbacks in their primes, have been dealt. And I think what has happened is it's the Ricky Bobby. If you're not winning, if you're not first, you're last.
Yep.
So if you're going to be last, you might as well be really bad or be bad enough to where you can accumulate some assets and have a chance of being good again by drafting well, by getting the next guy. And so I actually commend Seattle here because 2-1s, 2-2s, they felt like they weren't going anywhere. 2-1. Now, what do they do with them? We'll see. The one next year is probably not going to be that great. But if they got them in back-to-back classes, you're talking about now, you're saying, all right, we've got 2-1s this year, 2-1s next year, 2-2s this year, 2-2s next year. That's 6 young players that they can infuse their roster with. Or they can use those assets, and if they want to go chase after Deshaun Watson, they can.
You're exactly right. And so it's an interesting position to be in. It's going to be a new change of direction for them, obviously. It is kind of amazing that, going back to the Rap reporting, the other team that we had heard made the strong offer for Russ was the Commanders. Like, you could have gone into the NFC East and been the immediate division favorite. Choosing to go to the AFC West, I think, is on some level an interesting move, right, for Russ. But
don't you think that it's just ownership in Washington?
It's got to be, because that would make –
There's no other reason why you would. I mean, Washington, they've got a nice roster, good young players, good offensive players. I just think it's just ownership's tough.
Yeah. I think in everything that's going in there, there's no doubt. I mean, there's just no doubt that everything's going on with that franchise is a reason that it wasn't a destination for him. This is, again, I feel like, and just watching Twitter, it's fun to see the levels of panic that go through a fan base. Nothing has changed for us. Yes, another great quarterback was added to our division. I'm sure there were people out there that were hoping, maybe Russ is going to come to the Browns. The Browns need to improve their passing game. We have a quarterback who played at a very high level, top 5 in the league in drop-back passing over the second half of 2020. We got to get him back there. Will he? I don't know. I do know that he got hurt last year, and that affected his play to a degree. I know that he didn't play the best that he's had, but Baker Mayfield has given you a good stretch of play in his career with Kevin Stefanski. Our defense is going to be good. Our running game and offensive line are going to be elite. The one area we're deficient right now, I'd say, is perimeter talent. I think DPJ is an ascending player, and I think he'll be an excellent starter in this league for a while. I think Schwartz has speed, but very raw still at this point. We don't know what's going to happen with Jarvis, but we need that guy. We need the dude. The dude. The other Lebowski.
Yeah. The millionaire.
The millionaire.
Lebowski. Yeah. Oh, boy. Yeah. Yeah, you do that. Yeah. Yeah, Trotter really pushing this Seattle Watson thing. That if they don't transition those picks, they could do that pretty easily. Turn those picks into Watson pretty easily. You could do that.
Could if he wants to go there, does he want to go to Seattle? Does he want to follow Russell Wilson? We don't know. These are things we don't know. But yeah, it
feels like it would be.
It should be. I mean, well, Trotter's saying if they don't get Watson, they got had in this.
They're fools.
They're fools.
Yeah, they're fools if they don't do that.
By the way, we got a little Browns news real quick. I hate to interrupt here. Some Browns news. Stump Mitchell's back in the building and believes the arrow is pointing up for the 2022 season. So it's good to have Stump back.
Yeah. Yeah.
A little bit smaller
There you
scale.
go.
Smaller scale news.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, for sure. Peter Schrager just tweeting the eyes emoji. You wonder, is there more? Is there more? You just wonder if more could come here. And we'll keep an eye on it if it does. But obviously a big day in the NFL. Rodgers stays put. Wilson finds a new home. Unfortunately, it is in the AFC. It is in Denver. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. OBM, Ohio Business Machine, preferred copier provider of your Cleveland Browns. They have all the X's, O's for your office. Call 216-485-2000 or visit ohiobusinessmachines.com. The quarterback situation around the league with clarity today as we have two major deals. Aaron Rodgers staying in Green Bay for reportedly 4 years and $200 million with $153 billion of that guaranteed. And then here within the last hour or so, Russell Wilson traded to Denver. 2 1s, 2 2s, Noah Fant, Drew Lock, a Shelby Harris is the deal there, and a fourth going back to Denver on the other side of it. Warren Sharp football, Denver down to plus 1,200 to win the Super Bowl now with the acquisition of Russell Wilson. That would put them tied with the Bengals and the Cowboys as the third choice behind Kansas City and Buffalo in the National Football League. So they move with that, I think appropriately so. I think what happens now from a Seattle standpoint is fascinating. And I think what this is basically doing is you're putting yourself in a position around the league where if you are the San Francisco 49ers with Jimmy Garoppolo, if you're Houston with Deshaun Watson, if you are, now that's probably it in terms of guys that will be coveted to a certain extent. Obviously, Watson will be coveted greatly if he's cleared of charges and there are no criminal charges. Those two teams now have a lot of firepower in terms of what they can ask for, buddy, because there are too many teams that don't have answers at quarterback. The entire NFC South, with the exception of Matt Ryan. The NFC East, except for Dak. These are entire divisions. It's wild.
It is a wild situation. The Schrager eyes, I mean, you can't give the eyes and then you got to deliver something. Come on. What are we talking about here? What are we talking about here?
Or did he just wake up from his nap and he's seeing all this for the first time?
No, he knows the responsibility of eyes. He knows.
Yeah, he's not on the level of Rapp and Schefter, but I do think that he is. He would certainly be well versed enough in how the Twitter works to know that would cause a lot of stir without backing it up.
Yeah. What if Seattle gets Watson today? What if they're just like, F it, and that gets announced today? Would this be the craziest day in NFL history?
So
yeah,
Schrags tweets out those eyeballs. Louis Riddick, 6 months until season starts. A lot of off-season ball game left, kids.
I mean, the only thing left that it would be a game changer is Watson.
And
There's
Brady.
Nothing else out there.
Brady, if
yeah, but it's tricky, right? Because they control him in Tampa. Like he could go back to Tampa, or he's basically asking them for charity.
Can I ask, let's just entertain this, because why not, right? We have the time to talk about it.
Sure, yeah, we're having fun on a Tuesday in March.
If he says to them, look, I came here, I won you a Super Bowl, I want to go and for my personal life, go play a season in San Francisco, where I grew up. Like, why wouldn't they say yeah? Like, why you wouldn't hold? So, I just, in what scenario would you?
You're saying just charity. Like, this is what I want.
This is what I want.
Yeah.
Like, come on, I came here. I gave you guys the best 2 great seasons. We won a Super Bowl together. Like, come on. It's not like I'm a lifelong Buccaneer. I came here and gave your franchise something that nobody else, frankly, could. Let me go have my dream. You got your dream. Let me go have my dream.
Well, just from a cap standpoint, what would they have to do that? Like, could they just straight release him without getting a cap hit?
There would have to you have a buyout of the contract. He could waive his contract. He could. Who knows? I'm sure they could figure that.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably ways around it. I'm sure, but yeah, I mean, yeah, you could see something like that. I don't know. It seemed Arians seemed pretty legit
with some ladies. So who knows?
Yeah.
An interesting one here. Pro Football Talk tweets out all the details of the trade. The first person to respond, Eric Burkhart. He would be the agent to one Kyler Murray. Again, you either have a franchise QB or you don't. And if you don't, none of the other pieces matter much in the end. By the way, Kyler Murray, putting his stuff back up on Instagram.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Arizona, you make sure that this type of thing doesn't happen with Murray. Because they got one. I'll tell you what, you want to do futures in the NFC? Put them all on Arizona, pal, unless you believe in Trey Lance. That's it. It's all there. They got the established dude. You just got to stay healthy. The rest of the NFC, it's anybody's business. The winner right now is everybody in the NFC. It's Dallas is a winner. The Rams are a winner. The 49ers are a winner. Arizona's a winner. Those are the winners of what happened here today.
Green Bay, yeah,
is that it's staying as is.
Yes. In fact,
Huge.
cross one off the list. I mean, you think about the NFC in 2 seasons' time, you have lost Brady, Breeze, Russ in 2 seasons.
Yeah.
This from Albert Breer. Washington offered high picks in the next 3 drafts to the Seahawks for Russell Wilson. Per sources, it became apparent to the Commanders that Seattle preferred to trade him out of the NFC.
See, I don't understand that. If you're Seattle, what difference does it make? What do you care? Like, just get the most.
Well, because
You're
you
not
don't have to
competing
deal
with
with
Washington.
him, I guess.
Right, but come on. Like, you're so far from having to deal with him.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, you're not a contender. So, what difference does that make? If you put him on Washington because Washington would not have been able to get rid of players. They would not, because they would have needed all of them to make that an attractive place for him to play. You're probably talking about 3 1s and 2 2s for Wilson. That's probably what the ask would have been on that perspective if you take the player aspect out of it from the Denver side of things.
Just because he thought the day was going to be about him and it quickly has turned into not being about him, Aaron Rodgers has officially taken to Twitter 2 minutes ago.
Oh.
Hey, everyone. Just wanted to clear some things up. Yes, I will be playing with the Packers next year. However, reports about me signing a contract are inaccurate, as are the supposed terms of the contract I, quote, signed. I'm very excited to be back. Hashtag year 18.
What a weird dude he is.
Here we go.
Right?
He's very interesting. Yes.
Like, he couldn't let an afternoon. It's so amazing because everything that he said he hated or that he wasn't going to do because of what Favre did, he's done.
What I've found in my life is that there are people that make big claims like that and that are prone to incredible projection of saying, well, everybody else is doing this when they're the ones doing that very thing.
I guess so. Yeah, you're right. You're right on that part. And it's interesting. He says, I will be playing with the Packers next year.
Huh.
Yeah.
Huh.
Well, it'd be important for
to
him
do this
to
all over again?
It would be important for him to figure out exactly what it is that he is doing, because they need to know that for what they're gonna do with Devontae Adams. I mean, I know they're gonna franchise him, but for now, but that affects how they can do that deal. It's gonna affect, who they're able to keep, what they're not able. A lot could be affected by the way that the contract is actually structured and what it actually is.
Yeah, I mean, I would think that those things would all be married.
Yes. You've got Packers players on Twitter saying with that money being passed out today, looking for one, Marquez Valdes-Scantling. This has actually elevated him in my book. He uses a great GIF from the legendary Disney cartoon, the Robin Hood cartoon, when Robin's dressed up like the blind beggar shaking his can around. That's what
yes,
he's using.
Of course.
Which is just a tremendous find.
Robin Hood and Little John walking through the forest.
Love it.
Skipping, laughing back and forth at what the other had to say. Yeah, that's it. It's fantastic. Wow. So there you go. It's it's going to be fascinating to see where this goes. One positive of this, from just the look of it standpoint, I am certain that the Broncos will bring back the Elway throwbacks now as we go to another helmet season. So you're going to get the blue helmets, and you'll get him in them. That'll be a coveted jersey. The all whites look sharp very as well with those. But you'll see those, and you'll see him in them, and that'll be a hot selling jersey there, my friend.
No doubt. No doubt.
Yeah, but you love it, don't you?
Of course.
I will not be buying that.
Gibbe's
Good
all
news.
about it.
I don't think you will.
Unless I want to
Well.
burn one.
Per source, following the Seahawks trading Russell Wilson, they are open for business on wide receiver Tyler Lockett. Plenty of teams needing receiver help. He's a name to keep a close eye on. Nothing about DK Metcalf.
Yeah, I would think they would want to build around Metcalf.
Well, yeah, that's why I want to build around him.
I know.
Like, yeah, sounds great.
Yeah, that would be a win at that point if that could happen. What a wild day in the NFL, man! All of this stuff happening here on a Tuesday, and you knew that it would have to happen quickly. You know, the league year is approaching, the franchise tags are approaching. It certainly is time. I do wonder. Do you wonder if Rodgers' options dried up on him, or do you think
No, I
mean,
think
his tone is so strange.
I think he always knew he was going back there. I mean, you know, Albright had that one. I just think he knew he was going back there. I think that he was just trying. It ironically was all about the money, and he got that sorted out. It feels like. I mean, it's exactly what we were told it was going to be a week ago. Although he's saying no, that's not true. But that he could be talking dealing in semantics, like it's $100,000 more or less. You know what I mean? Like
he would absolutely be someone who would thrive in dealing with semantics.
Yeah.
To say that it's different than what it is.
Just a fine detail.
Still so much more to come. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. car, truck, or motorcycle accident caused you injury, call the injury lawyers at 1-800-ELK-OHIO for a free case review. Elk & Oak's a proud partner of your Cleveland Browns. I'll leave you with this. An interesting tweet from Albert Breer that I saw here right as we were coming back from break Z. He said, Russell Wilson never pushed for a trade over the last month, instead choosing to let the situation unfold on its own. The Seahawks did work with him, though, and according to one source, Denver was always his first choice. Well, I tell you what, a year ago when you say, these are teams I would go to if I were traded, that's essentially pushing for a trade.
Right.
So
I don't want to trade, but
this allows for
I
him
want to
to
get
save
traded
face
to Denver.
in Seattle.
Yeah.
But, jeez, what a wild day in the NFL, my friend. Absolutely wild. Could be more coming in the next couple of days, kids. Yeah, absolutely was. The AFC, just an absolute meat grinder for 2022. The next level is coming up next. We're back tomorrow. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland.